Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we wanted to take a moment to remember the late Dusty Hill, bassist and sometime vocalist of the band ZZ Top. Yesterday afternoon it was announced that Dusty passed away in his sleep the night before at the age of 72. We want to send our condolences to Dusty's fans, family, and friends. Our condolences to all of you. All right, here's our conversation and our reminiscing about Dusty Hill. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock Experience with Mike Brunn. Today I have back with me, back-to-back days, my buddy. This one not on as much of a positive topic as it was yesterday, right? But I feel like we kind of almost getting used to doing some of these, which I never get used to doing them. But yesterday, actually, as we were recording, we found out that Dusty Hill from ZZ Top, longtime bass player, passed away in his sleep, 72 years old. So we just figured we'd jump on, say a few words, talk about him, talk about ZZ Top for a few minutes. So when did you find out yesterday, buddy?
I think it was shortly after we did our recording,
Yep, same here. Same
and
here.
usually I find out because I don't watch TV
Right,
unless it's an old episode of Three's Company.
of course.
By the way, I'm on season 2 right now. I'm at episode 7.
Okay.
Um, I find out usually through Facebook, that somebody posts something or some media outlet puts it out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say watching Three's Company because especially
Hmm.
you more than me, but both of us, kind of enjoy those 70s and 80s TV shows and movies and all of that. And I don't know if you remember that ZZ Top was actually in Back to the Future. I think it was the third one of the series.
I think I skipped that one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
I hardly got past the second one, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, I never made it to 3. But
So
yeah,
I guess you don't have the box set the way I do.
no, I don't.
Okay,
I had
yeah,
to think about that, but no,
I,
I don't.
I do. I do. And ZZ Top is in the third one. Um, but yeah, so yesterday it was announced, obviously, Dusty Hill passed away in his sleep. One of the things I had not realized, because I don't keep up day to day with Dusty Hill and with ZZ Top specifically, is it seems like it was about 10 days ago that, I know he's having hip issues and he played his last show with the band back on July 18th. And since then, they were playing with a replacement with Dusty's blessing, right? So I thought that was pretty interesting. And, people didn't know on that gig on the 18th that would be his last show, but they have been performing, I guess, the past week or so, without him.
Yeah, and I've heard that they will still power on without him.
Mm-hmm.
I think a statement by Billy Gibbons, I got that right,
Yep.
has already stated that ZZ Top will go on.
Yeah. I know that they had a gig last night in South Carolina that was canceled, but they do have a show tomorrow night in, I think it's Alabama, and the plan is that they're going to go forward playing that gig as soon as tomorrow night, which has got to be a little weird for them. I mean, I know that Dusty wasn't playing with them for the last week, but the guy was there for 50 years, and now all of a sudden, a few days after his passing, they're going on touring with him. That kind of took me a little bit as a surprise, but at the same time, it seems like that's what Dusty wanted. And in some ways, knowing that band, I'm not surprised. There's one of the things I always admired about them is that I'm not going to lie, I'm not the hugest ZZ Top fan, but I certainly know all the hits. I know some of the other songs as well, but they always seem to be very consistent with the type of band they were, and had a loyal following of fans. And it's obviously, it seems like this is what Dusty wanted, and more credit to them for continuing on then.
Yeah, I actually saw them once in the
Did you?
early '90s. I think it was at the Garden. I think maybe the Black Crows actually opened for them,
Hmm.
and it wasn't one. It was one of those things where somebody asked if I want to go see them, and it's like sure, why not? Uh, and the thing is, talk about culture and especially '80s culture. How could you not think about ZZ Top and right at the height of like the video, which 83, 84.
Yep.
Those songs from Eliminator, Give Me All Your Lovin',
Yep.
Legs, Sharp Dressed Man, how iconic those videos became, how that car became so iconic.
Yes.
And the thing that was always really cool about ZZ Top was if you watched them on stage, as Kiss fans, we love when Induce when they do their moves and they do the,
Hmm.
but
Yep.
they had this like
They
this
spin the
little
guitar.
thing, this little, I mean, and the spinning the guitars, it was
Mhm.
just like, so to what you said a little while ago about, them going on, I don't know who the new bass player is, but that's going to be a kind of probably a, you see these two guys with the long beards and the moves. It's just, it's almost, I don't know even how to say it. It's like, if Kiss went on Paul Stanley and there was another guy playing bass and it wasn't Gene Simmons with some other sort of makeup, like it would
Yep.
just look, if they still doing the makeup thing, you know what I mean?
Right. 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 Of course.
I know it's apples and oranges here, but I'm trying to,
No.
just
No.
how
Look,
that visual thing, and how
I agree.
I always loved that the one guy who didn't have a beard in the band was Frank Beard.
Frank
I
Beard.
was like, which is just shows the humor,
Yeah.
involved, and
Agreed.
that was just always great. But here's a a band that I love bands that transform themselves into something else, and whether they were going with what was happening in the '80s, because let's face it, they're whatever, and I don't know that much about them other
Mhm.
than I believe they're out of Texas Blues or
Yep.
whatever.
Mhm.
I have some of their early records, and I obviously know like Tush and Lagrange and stuff like that. So if you really want that old school like blues, and I've seen a couple of years ago, I was in a Bose store and they had one of those concerts on from maybe like 2015, and it sounded great. They sounded great, and just a simple three piece. I love when you could hear a three-piece band and feel like there's nothing else really required here. You don't need keyboards.
Right.
It's the style of the music they wrote. You know what I
Agreed.
mean?
Mhm.
And even though the Eliminator stuff was heavily synthesizer, and ironically, the all the drums on that hit record were all a drum machine, as I come to find out later
Really?
on.
I didn't know that.
So that
Okay.
was all like, and you got to think about it again. Think about 83,
But
84.
there was no beard on that album. You're saying?
There was no beard,
Okay.
there was no beard,
No beard.
unless the drum machine was called the Beard, which I don't know. I don't know of that model.
Okay.
Um, but think about like a guy like Mutt Lang at the time. He was like, Pyromania, we're going to use the drum machine. It's like, we want to go for the sound. This is what the producers wanted, and so be it. I mean, obviously it worked, you know.
Hmm.
But I always thought, and I know I'm going a little off topic, but we're
No,
talking ZZ Top. Imagine the drummer saying, "Wait a second, I'm not playing on this record," and then
right.
all of a sudden, all these hits come out with him. It's not even his parts.
That's
I mean, he
interesting.
got to play it live, but I would, I mean, I'm a drum. I would just feel like, wow, that's got to hurt at first, but
That's
obviously
interesting.
the producer knew best. But
Right. Right.
I
Right.
love the fact that they came from, I mean, I think they got together, it was like 1969 or 70 or something like that.
Yep.
And, toured throughout the 70s. And I think they actually toured with Kiss at some point in time.
Yeah. 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 They
So
did.
I think,
Kiss opened for them somewhere in the early 70s. I don't
yeah,
remember exactly when, probably 74, 75 time period, if I had to
yeah,
guess. Off the top of my head. I know Stanley did make a post about, the fact that, they did open up for ZZ Top in the early days. So, yeah, they did. You mentioned some of those classic songs before from the Eliminator album. I think the song was on Eliminator as well, but you tell me, you might know better than me. TV Dinners. It's a song I
yep,
remember of theirs. And I used to, and even to this day, like if we're like winging it for dinner, and my wife's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna take out this turkey TV dinner." I'm like, TV dinners. I'll start
yeah,
singing the
yeah,
song instantly. So even
yeah,
though that one wasn't as big of a hit, it's something that still sticks with me to this day. And
mm,
in a goofing but fun way, I still constantly singing that song to my wife when we're preparing a quick dinner.
yeah. Well, that's the thing about that record. Again, I always love to point out artists like a Sting or an Ozzy who have their own sound, and there's no other band that ever sounded like ZZ Top. A lot of it because of Billy Gibbons' voice. A lot of it's the guitar playing.
Yep.
When you hear ZZ Top, you hear, only them. It's not like, oh yeah, well they sound a little bit like this band,
Yeah,
and I can't even really think of other bands who really copied them. They're just kind of like their own unique thing, which is really really cool. And
it is.
they're Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, which is again because he's passed. It's nice to know that he was able to get that honor.
Agreed.
You know how we feel about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but
Right. Yes.
whether we our opinion, it's still I like to see bands who earn that
Agreed. Agreed.
honor to get
Yep.
it. So um,
Yep.
and he had this uh, forever, I want to say love affair with the bass guitar or Fender basses. He played a Telecaster bass, which was very, very unique.
Yep.
A lot of bass players don't play. I don't even own it. I own a lot of basses,
Hmm.
and I saw that yesterday. I'm like, I'm thinking like maybe I need one of those Telecaster basses because
Now,
it's just a
but
unique
will you grow
sound.
your beard also if you get one?
I couldn't if I. This is the
So
best.
you see, I'm
You know,
starting. I'm
yeah, yeah.
starting.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. This is going to be a short road. Um,
Oh man.
but that's also what made them unique with the sound too, because of his technique. If you watched his technique if you're a musician, very very kind of unique to his style, which is
Agreed.
great.
Agreed. Now you mentioned before that they started in the 70s, and I remember reading. I find this fascinating. I knew that they started without the trademark beards. Right? In the first almost like 10 years of their career, they didn't look like that. But I read
Mm,
a story, and I think this is really cool. And I'm going to assume it's true because I think it came from Billy. That both Billy and Dusty had gone on vacation in '79 separately, not
hmm
together. And individually, they both decided while on vacation, I'm not going to shave anymore. And they kind of hooked up after the vacation, and both of them with full beards. And they're like,
right.
wait. And they just decided to stick with it. And from what I've read, there's different companies that have offered them, money, razor companies usually, like, hey, if you shave it off in a commercial, we'll give you $1 million. And they're always like, nope, not doing it.
hmm
And it's kind of, I'm not surprised. Like you said, with their music, kind of stays true to who they are. And then to me, that those beards were just as much of their personality and their image as you mentioned, Kiss with the makeup, right? Like I can't now. I know that they did perform without the beards at first, but I can't imagine ZZ Top without the beards. I can't
hmm
imagine Dusty Hill without that long beard anymore. That's
Yeah,
just that's part of who they are, you know.
yeah, absolutely. And let's also I like to note that I mean there are cool band names, but ZZ Top.
Mhm.
That is like that's one of those things like when I create a band or I join a band, I'm like, man, I wish I could think of a name as good as like Z. It's
Yeah,
just such a cool name, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
right,
And
yeah.
it's always I always love stories of bands where they just kind of even whether it's by accident with the beard thing or by
Mhm.
circumstance where they just push all the magic buttons,
Yep, agreed.
and especially a band like let's face facts, about 13 years or 14 years into their career is when they hit the height of their success,
Which is
which is
amazing.
awesome,
Which
right?
is
I mean, yeah,
amazing. Yep,
if you think about that,
yep.
I mean, even like a Judas Priest is kind of similar to that. They started maybe in 72, 73, and by the time that what they hit like 81 or 82, when they really, I think it was it, what was, it wasn't Screaming for Vengeance, the album before that, British Steel, I think that was
Yeah,
81. So they were out a good 10 years or 9 years before they really, I mean, I'm not saying they didn't have any success, but
right,
where they were kind of like a brand name and, some commercial success,
right,
the bands that stick it out, or Twisted Sister,
right.
who
Good.
started in what, 74, 75, no record contract. I mean, you recently had Mark Mendoza on, and
Yep.
that's like an incredible story. So again,
Really.
with ZZ, it's like another great story where they started out. I mean, they had some success in the 70s, obviously. They
Mhm,
had some hits,
mhm.
but they didn't have like that, like, I don't know on chart wise, but they were definitely top 10 singles, if not maybe number one album at some
I
point in
think
time.
Eliminator sold over 10 million copies, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, that's just crazy to think about it. Like you said, a band that's 14,
Mm-hmm.
15 years into their career ending
Mm-hmm.
up with a diamond album, right? I think 10 million copies is
Yeah.
diamond, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy. Think about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's absolutely, yeah, and very unique, like you said, compared to most bands. Now, you mentioned
Yeah.
before Billy Gibbon singing, and to me, one of the things that does get overlooked is that Dusty did sing some songs as
Mm-hmm.
well. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. Yesterday, when I made my post on my Facebook page, I made a comment that and sometimes singer, and people don't realize maybe, or maybe some people do. He's the guy singing Tush. One of their
Yeah.
biggest hits. He's
Yeah.
singing
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
for me, as much as I love those songs in the '80s, Sharp Dressed Man, etc., like you said before, um, I'm disappointed I never saw ZZ Top in concert. And if I did, that's probably the song I'd want to hear more than anything. Right. And
Yeah,
so it's, as much as Billy was the singer, Dusty had one of the biggest songs to his credit. And I think it's one of the songs that ended the shows on a regular basis. And I know he sang other
yeah,
songs, and there's one,
yeah,
Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, that he sang, and a few others as well. Pretty much every album he had one or two songs. And I want to just acknowledge that, because there was somebody on the page yesterday that was like, oh, Billy Gibbons is the singer. Get your facts straight. Nah, get your facts straight. Dusty was actually singing some of those songs on each of those albums. Not many, but there's a couple of
yeah.
songs that he was singing on. I just want to acknowledge that as well.
And or harmonies, and or
Yeah,
backing vocals.
absolutely.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, one of my first bands that I played out with, that was maybe a couple shows in, was Tush was one of the first covers I
Yeah,
played
I
of
remember
the
that.
first, So yeah, look, I think they were a great band. I'm happy I got to see them live. They were definitely totally unique. There's tons of videos and stuff like that. You could go on YouTube, watch the videos. We always say the same thing, but
Yep,
I mean, we're always going to say the same thing when we're celebrating somebody's life.
yep,
There's so much good music, and also listen in between the tracks of the hits. There's a lot of great stuff in there. If you want
yep.
some old, like, blues, with great feel, that just that old school, it makes me want to eat barbecue. You know what I mean? It's
It
like
does.
you're throwing their record and you want to fucking eat barbecue. You know what I
You
mean?
do.
That's when you got like something, like if a music and a meal could come together, you know what I mean?
You
Different bands might be something else,
give me a
but
slab of ribs.
yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Brisket, man. Oh man,
Yeah, there you go.
think about that. Good thing I had brisket the other day.
Oh man.
But yeah, so
But this one's
just a
unique
fun,
because
fun
usually
band.
we say go back, listen to the music, and enjoy the legacy. And obviously, that's one of the things that we always say.
Yeah,
But like we said before, tomorrow night, ZZ Top's playing in concert. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's I think going to be interesting. When we spoke about Eddie Van Halen passing, and some of these other ones, Bob Kulick passing, there weren't touring entities anymore. This one is a bit unique. Dusty's passed, and definitely go back, listen to those albums, listen to the music that he's put out. But also, there's still an opportunity. If you haven't caught ZZ Top, it won't be the same, but there's still a chance to catch ZZ Top if you want to.
yeah. And it's still 2/3 of ZZ Top that are
Yeah.
there, and
Yep.
so I mean, and you're still gonna hear great music, and yeah,
And that's obviously what Dusty wanted. That's what
yeah,
he
yeah,
wanted, is for that legacy to continue on.
yeah. And it should be that way.
Agreed.
It really should be, because if you think about the artist, if you think about a Billy Gibbons, unless Dusty was like, please don't, I don't want you to do this, for whatever
Mhm.
reason. This is your heart and soul. This is all you know is music. How do you turn that switch off when
Agreed.
this is what you love and your passion? I mean, that would be totally selfish, in my opinion, if any
Agreed.
artist would ask that
Yeah.
for another bandmate or band members.
But I think it says a lot about Dusty himself.
Of
He's
course,
obviously got the
that's
hip, and
absolutely
you have
great.
to wonder if he knew that his days were numbered. And there's been nothing said about that yet. But the
Yeah,
fact he pulled himself off the tour and gave that blessing, and 10 days later he's gone. You have to wonder if he knew something, and I haven't read that he does, so I'm purely speculating here. But it says a lot about his character as a person, also, that he wanted to make sure
absolutely,
that that band continued.
absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. And I'm sure he was, incredibly proud of what they accomplished. And you know
As he
what?
should be.
If for whatever reason your time is limited, and
Yep.
you could look back and say, wow, look at this thing I created. People dream, like myself, people dream to be on that stage. People dream to have one hit song or one published song, you
Mhm.
know what I mean, to sing a song on one of their biggest hits, you know what I mean.
Yep.
Hopefully he died with peacefully, and feeling good about what he accomplished.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. Well, like we always say, go back, listen to those albums, enjoy the legacy.
mm-hmm.
If you're so inclined, enjoy going to see the band. They're still out there on the road, and there's still that
Yeah.
opportunity. And enjoy what Dusty's left behind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, buddy. I always
Yeah.
say at the end of these, let's hope we don't have to do another one again anytime soon. But it seems like I feel like we're doing one of these every couple of weeks lately. And yeah,
Yeah.
let's hope there's not another one to do soon. Yesterday we did a fun episode. I hope next time I'm chatting with you, we're doing this, it's another fun episode.
I feel exactly the same way.
All righty. Thanks everybody for watching. Go enjoy some ZZ Top music, and talk to you guys soon.
Talk to you soon.
Later. Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to take a moment and thank everybody for watching or listening and reminiscing with us about Dusty's great career. Our condolences go out to Dusty's friends, family, and fans of ZZ Top. Rest in peace, Dusty. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Rest in peace, Dusty.